Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August. I hope you are well. I'm using the Wildwood Tarot for you today. So let's get straight on and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards please for Scorpio? A lot of cards turning. Let's have a jump there, please. Oh, there we go. Flew out. Oh, we have the Tower in your recent past. Okay, I'll dig into that a little bit. What's current energy, please, for Scorpio? There it is. We have the 7 of Swords. Well, it's come out in the reverse. In this deck, it's actually called 7 of Arrows. It uses arrows instead of swords. And the key word on it is insecurity. So it's a good thing that it's in the reverse, but we'll get into it. And what's coming towards Scorpio? Thank you. We have 2 cards. Lord. We have the Devil and we have the King of Cups, which is obviously you, Scorpio, there, Capricorn energy in the Devil. Although in this deck it's actually called Guardian. At the bottom of the deck here we have the Knight of Cups, which is Pisces energy. And in some ways, I feel like it would be a better representation of these two if they were to switch images. The Heron as the King of Cups being Scorpio and Pisces being this Knight of Cups here. There's something quite, immersive about the energy of that there. Oh, maybe that's correct actually. Maybe I could see that being a thing, but interesting. Ooh, we're going to go with the Crow Tarot to clarify, which is unusual. That doesn't often happen because it's such a big deck. Let's give that a little swoosh under there. Why is the Tower here for Scorpio, please? Thank you. We have the Justice card and we have the Page of Swords. Okie dokie. Tell me about this 7 of Arrows. We've got the 10 of Pentacles and we've got the Emperor there, Aries energy. Justice is Libra, I should have said that. Tell me about this Devil and King of Cups, please. Thank you. We have the Ace of Pentacles. We have the 9 of Swords. So one more please. Thank you. Ooh. We have the 5 of Wands in reverse and we have the Knight of Swords. This is a busy old reading here. I like to see the fact that we've got the Magician at the bottom of the deck. It is, however, followed by the Tower. And I would say, however, and it's followed by the Tower because there's something there's something pivotal that seems to be happening for you at the moment. Now, maybe it's already happened, but it feels like it's the energetic repercussions of it are still kind of playing their way out here a little bit. To see the Magician at the bottom of the deck is a really powerful indication that in whatever way a Tower has hit with you. And, the Tower being a Scorpio card, it's a little less... Well, no, it's not a little less. It's intense, but so are you. And so there is, in some ways, at least a familiarity with that kind of energy, if not a comfort with it. Let's put it that way. But the Magician tells me that this has either put you in a very strong position to be able to move forwards and manifest something, because the energy of the Tower is always about clearing things out, But so I'm looking at that Tower there. We see we've got the the standard lightning strike hidden there. I'm also seeing a lightning strike here with the Crow and the Magician. I don't know if it's actually there. I don't even know if the camera will pick it up actually, but it's just like a little white line down there that also looks like a lightning strike. And it looks like it's hit your environment. And that's cleared some things out. But then it seems to be hitting you personally. And this feels like it's a kind of power-up in some sort of way. There's a focus here, at least at the beginning of the reading. Gets a little messier towards the end, but even that I'm not too concerned with, because what was it Littlefinger said in Game of Thrones? That chaos is a ladder. Well, if you're comfortable in the chaos, you're far more capable, I think, of either creating a ladder or seeing the potential for the ladder and following it, you know? I'm going to put those to one side at the moment because I want to get to this tower here. There it is. It's called the Blasted Oak in this deck. We only have one person falling here, interestingly, as opposed to the usual two. But the interesting thing about this depiction of the tower, and I have to run off this one primarily rather than this one, because it's the main card in the deck, is the fact that this lightning strike has taken off a branch of the tree, and whilst somebody is, you know, slightly aflame and falling down, the way that the flames are depicted around the wrists and ankles of this person, this chap who's falling from the tree. I mean, have a look and see what you think, but it looks to me like there are binds there. Let's see it properly. I'll see if I can get it to focus properly. There are binds around his arms and legs that are being burned away. So we know that the tower is not a comfortable energy, but there is something liberating, which is, you know, always true of the tower, if not immediately seen. There is something liberating about what has occurred here for you. So it's like you've been bound to the limb of this tree, and as it's been struck off, so you're falling to the ground. What we're not seeing is the tree itself beginning to fall. That actually looks like it's still very stable and maintaining its position where it is. So whatever the tower means to you, and it can be a number of things, right? It can be definitely things that are happening in your environment. They're a little shocking, a little unexpected. You didn't really see them coming, but here they are. And this can be people, this can be, you know, perhaps an unexpected job loss, you know, it's the rug being pulled out from underneath you in some ways. But it can also speak to a moment of epiphany where we cannot see things the same way once they've happened. I've often said my most intense tower moments have actually happened while I've been doing the washing up at the sink. And suddenly, you know, my subconscious has just put two things together that I did not see before. And at that moment, everything changed and nothing was the same. It's a forced evolution in some ways, actually. But rather than us having to wait for the dust to settle and the storm to abate and all that kind of thing, what you've got here is an immediate, sudden and immediate release from something that has bound you in a way that you may not have even considered yourself to be bound. Actually, it's possible. Cat's come to give his 2 pennies worth. Go away, go away. Go do something else. Stop shouting at me. And we do have, clarifying this, the Justice card and the Page of Swords, and there's this same theme of movement that we definitely see in the tower, but it's elevation. Now, I know this is going to sound slightly strange because, you know, this person's kind of plummeting to the ground here, and there's no doubt it's going to have a bit of an uncomfortable landing. Like, we can't doubt that. But compared to where he has been, at least there is the option of picking himself up and moving off. Where he was bound to the limbs of a tree, that wasn't going to happen. But here we've got the Justice card in, you know, full wing spread like this and looking up. There's definitely an upward movement here. And we've also got the Page of Swords, which has always got an upward feel to me too, because it's about, well, it's sometimes about mental expansion, right? But it's certainly about new information coming in and it pushing your conscious awareness of something into a different realm, into a different sphere. And we could say that there's something very karmic about what it is that perhaps you've discovered, or what it is that you've perhaps just gone through, the connections that you've put together, or the, you know, the big event that's kind of felt like it was shaking your foundations, but that's actually only because you were falling to the ground. You know, actually everything else is very solid around this. But there's a process of coming into a state of balance and then being able to move up that is being indicated here. I am kind of nosy, so I'm going to pull another card from a deck that I cannot currently see. That one over there. Let's get you. Tell me about this justice card. Thank you. We have the Queen of Swords. This makes sense. Oh, and the Knight of Wands. That's interesting, right? So for some of you, it may well be that there might be a Libra or there might be a Sagittarius involved, because we've actually got Libra indicated twice here with the Justice card and the Queen of Swords. It could be that you've been dealing with one of those things, but I feel like this Libran energy is actually within you for some reason. I don't know why, that feels very specific to you. But there is something that you are seeing now that you did not see before. And I think the Queen of Swords is almost always a very good ally when it comes to achieving a level of clarity that you were missing. She's very discerning, and she's also capable of processing an awful lot of information swiftly perhaps, but extremely accurately. And what she's looking at here is this Knight of Wands. Now, Knight of Wands is Sagittarius, and we can see this being one of two ways. Well, one of a number of ways, actually. You could have been dealing with a Sagittarius, and that may have been for good or for ill for you, you know, depending on how it's gone down, because there is no card that is all positive or all negative. But the way that feels most appropriate with the cards that are on the table is this energetic state of presence. There's movement available to you now where there wasn't before. And whether this is because of relationships that you were tied to, certain ideas that you were tied to, you know, there's a sense here that you've been looking for this ability to be able to move, and it's come all in one go. And that can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. I mean, we've got the Six of Wands there, which does indicate that where there was something that was very unclear, or where your next movement was not available to be seen by you, now everything's kind of out in the open. There's a very conscious energy about all of you, and you do feel like you've been kind of... I feel like the things that have gone on for you recently, Scorpio, although they might have been sudden and shocking as they've happened, what they've helped is to bring this sense of clarity. But there's also this feeling that you've kind of been maneuvered, like by forces bigger than yourself, I have to say. Maneuvered to a particular place of awareness. And it could be that there was, you know, someone who's let you down. There could have been some sort of something that's come to light for you. I don't feel like you've been doing anything wrong other than lacking that sense of clarity about the situation. And maybe that's kept you still for longer than it needed to. But now here is the movement, and it's in all of the cards. And where you might have been, I feel for a lot of you, absolutely stuck to the past on some sort of issue. Queen of Wands. It's all about the movement now. You know, what the Tower does is it creates space, and, you know, if you haven't even realised that you've been tripping over stuff inside your own head for a long time, it's only in the absence of that stuff where you can actually stretch your legs and move around and say, oh, actually there aren't things here stopping me in the same way that there were. And I do feel like there's a sense of turning towards the future, right? So we've got the Seven of Arrows there, Seven of Swords, and it's showing up in the reverse. And there's a couple of different ways of seeing this. I mean, the key word on the card is insecurity, but as we know, the Seven of Swords is often called the thief card. It speaks to deceit and duplicitous behaviour, you know. It can sometimes also talk about taking a risk, and we'll definitely come back to that in a second. But I often see the Seven of Swords as the ways in which we kind of pulled the wool over our own eyes. It's the ways that we look at things and we see what we want to see. And it's amazing how we can filter out red flags about stuff. We've all done it. Some of us have done it quite proficiently, actually, after a while, and still managed to be stunned that we didn't see them in retrospect. But there are also, you know, ways that we pull the wool over our eyes in terms of what we need, in terms of what will make us happy. Sometimes we don't feel like making ourselves happy is actually something that is a worthy pursuit for us, because, and I speak with someone who has a heavy Scorpio influence on their chart, you know, sometimes we just don't feel like it's our lot to be happy or content about anything. It's more like a constant state of firefighting the worst. But the interesting thing for me is that it feels like, although this tower is a significant energy, it's always a significant energy, what's shifted is something relatively small. It's a small shift in perception that's opened up an awful lot of things. It's not like when you first start doing shadow work, you know, and you hit all of the major first things, like, whoa, I had an abusive childhood, holy shit, and then immediately, you know, your entire life history is just, the narrative that you have on your life history is completely rewritten, because, you know, suddenly it's not about you being a terrible person. Actually, there's somebody else who is in charge of this, right? So the first stage, obviously, of shadow work, we don't stop there because there's a lot more to it than that, but that can take quite a lot of processing. Changes everything. Even though nothing in your immediate environment has really changed at all, suddenly you're a different person in the here and now than you were a day ago, before you put these two things together and you have this kind of revelation. And there are lots of ways in which these kind of revelations can express themselves, can show themselves, you know, and it doesn't have to just be an abusive childhood. It can be all sorts of things. Sometimes it can be a too indulgent childhood, and that will find a way to cause you pain as you are an adult. But in that beautifully simple way that always seems to be the case, you know, the only person who really gets in your way is you. And we know that for a certainty. But trying to identify the ways in which one gets in one's own way can be a lifetime's work, because everything is hidden and your subconscious is kind of doing little baits and switches, and sometimes the ego becomes the all. All of that seems to be dropped for you here, Scorpio, because you've become aware of the ways in which you were covering your eyes on things. And I think the fear plays a huge part in that. You know, we've talked about that a lot, and we'll definitely get to that in a second. Because we've got these two extraordinarily strong cards of stability here. We've got the Emperor and we've got the Ten of Pentacles. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that you're probably doing all right for yourself at the moment, right? Because there's a sense of you pulling everything together. You're really taking charge of stuff. And maybe you have always taken charge of stuff, but there's a little bit more to it now. There's more that you're taking charge of in your own head. And it seems to be releasing you from obstacles in the here and now that your subconscious has been kind of throwing in the way, right, left and centre for you. So you can do so well, but you're not allowed to do any weller than that. Ugh. Actually hurt me inside saying that. You can't do any better than that. Or maybe you know, it's not for the likes of you to be stable. You must always be absolutely flogging yourself on to the next thing, you know. You have to expect insecurity. Your card, after all, is the Tower, and is that not the absolute epitome of insecurity? I think it probably is. Certainly a sense of that which was secure then falling down, which we know from, you know, a historical perspective, Scorpio has always been hypervigilant for. Right? Better not to invest in the building of the Tower at all than be anywhere near it when it falls down. Better that you be over there somewhere, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that it has stopped you going after things that really were there as opportunities for you. Almost all of the crows in these two cards are looking to the left. And I wonder if what you're looking at is the ways in which you have created your stability, and probably through controlling circumstances and situations. I mean, Scorpio, definitely. There are a few signs that you can almost always rely on to be controlling something somewhere. That's definitely one of them. What have we got here? We've got the Magician. It seems to me, yeah, I need Three of Cups in the Fool. It seems to me, with the Four of Wands at the bottom of the deck here, that there's a lot that you are rolling over here at the moment. Now, it feels like you've achieved a lot, and I think that you've built a lot. And whether this is your home or your employment, or, you know, just getting a name for yourself in doing a particular thing, there's a security that is associated with that. But the way that the Tower has appeared for you in the recent past, I don't think it works for you in quite the same way anymore. This is either having a complete revolution, as in the way that you're doing something which you wish to continue doing, whether it's your job or, you know, your property, your money, your finances, whatever. It feels like you need to overhaul it. And this is the sense of awareness that you now have about your situation, is that it all needs overhauling. The Magician has turned up twice for you. And I don't feel like it's just restating that you've done very well, and you've done very well because you had Magician energy. It's more a burgeoning sense of awareness that there is so much more for you to tap into. And in some ways you were keeping yourself small. For whatever reason, and it will vary dramatically with all of you. And fear of failure is definitely something that is going to, you know, rear its head. Because if you're controlling something and it fails, then how well are you actually really controlling? And what does it say about you as a human being? You know, all these sorts of things that we torture ourselves with in the middle of the night. There's more support around you than you think. I just want to throw that in there for a fact too. And definitely people who can add to your Magician energy. But it's time for you to start thinking outside of the box, Scorpio. You've done really, really well inside of the box, but the veil's lifted from your eyes. And I do think that this has been an internal shift for you. I think that you've noticed some things. I mean, I'm noticing something very similar in the way that these cards are coming out to an experience I had a couple of months ago. Did ayahuasca ceremony. And I'll quite happily talk to you about that at some point, and not now. But kind of the way that you've come to this realization sideways. And working out that there's so much more room for you to expand and for you to grow, because your Ten of Pentacles actually needs to be in the future, but you're looking back at it on the past and going, well, I did pretty well, but I had this box to work within, and now I've just realized that actually I've pecked a hole in the side of the box, and I've looked and there's a whole fucking room out there, and I can expand into this. I don't need to keep myself this small. You know, we've just had that quite spectacular transit. of Uranus through the North Node, which is in Taurus, which is your opposite sign. And so there's no doubt that it's hit you. I mean, it hit all of the fixed signs, and there was a big trine as well. And apparently the energy of all of this stuff is likely going to hang around for 15 years or something like that. So we're talking about the beginning of a very big new cycle for you. With unexpected twists and changes, and we see that with the Tower having arrived already. But this awareness of the amount of space that is around you, inside of you too, but around you to expand into. And we've got the Fool. You know, the Fool being the card of taking the leap, going into the unknown. You know the inside of your box very, very well, Scorpio. That's how you've managed to create, you know, this stability and security for yourself, such as it is. And it doesn't mean that you're all millionaires, but it does mean that when there's something that's important to you, you will work on it really, really hard. And for some Scorpios, that's going to involve money. For other Scorpios, it's going to be a nice house. You know, your earlier experiences will dictate what security and stability feel like to you. For some of you, it might just be the knowledge that you can stay in your little one-bedroom rented flat and not get moved on in 6 months' time. Something like that, right? You have to take it as it resonates to you. But this Seven of Swords is coming into play in both ways, because it is talking about that veil, the lies that we tell ourselves, and they are lies. Right? We don't do it on purpose, we don't do it deliberately, and it's a protection mechanism from our subconscious. But ultimately it is a not truth, and therefore, as far as I'm concerned, it's a lie that we tell ourselves. But we also have this risk component. Now, Scorpio, you do tend to be fairly risk averse. It's just a fact, you know. When you spend your life firefighting, why would you go out of your way to make things harder for yourself? Well, maybe it's in retrospect, you can look back and say, oh, shit, I did. I did make life quite hard for myself, but it wasn't on purpose. I was certain it wasn't on purpose. What we got here is a realization that in order for you to expand and grow into whatever it is that you are supposed to be next, whatever it is that you are supposed to do next, that there is a risk involved with that. And going from the 10 down to the 4, 10 of Pentacles down to the 4 of Wands, it's not a bad thing at all. But it does mean a readjustment of your expectations, an adjustment of I was going to say your sense of reality, but I don't think it's that. It's just like how big you are and how big the space that you are in is, and how much bigger you could allow yourself to be, how much more you could do, you know? Because there's no point in controlling these 10 Pentacles, like they literally cannot expand anymore. What you've got to do is create a new baseline. That's what we see with the 4 of Wands. And from there, build and grow. Now, when we put this card here of what's coming towards you, these cards, in August, we've got this Guardian, which is the Devil card. A bit closer, so it's really bright today. And we've got the King of Cups. Now, we know that the King of Cups is you. And there you are, standing quite happily as a heron in a stream, presumably waiting to do a bit of fishing or something. But you're at ease there. Right? That's the point of the King of Cups. But the King of Cups is looking at the Guardian, or the Devil, or whatever you want to call it. Certainly it's a slightly horrifying theme. And if I saw this kind of rattling towards me, I think I'd probably shit myself. But it's a card of facing your demons. And is this not what you've been doing for the last couple of months? I think it is. What was your last, was it your last video, or was it the one before? Feel the pain and do it anyway. You know, I don't know how much of that energy was you kind of putting yourself in place for all of this, or whether that energy is what caused the tower, and that then is what has allowed this space to appear in your head where suddenly new things are possible. You know, did you take a risk when you felt the pain and you did it anyway? Or did it just feel like something that you should do? Because here we're definitely moving into the territory of risk. And it's, you know, it's not going to be easy. Hey Scorpio, something's not going to be easy. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's just a given, right? But we've got the Ace of Pentacles and we've got the Nine of Swords. Now, remember what I said, there's no point in sticking with that Ten of Pentacles, right? It exists, it's there, it's great. I don't think it's going anywhere, but it certainly cannot expand beyond where it is. What you need for that is the Ace of Pentacles. You need the potential for a new Ten of Pentacles, right? Maybe one that builds on the back of this one, maybe one that is built to the side. Either way, it's there. And we've got the Nine of Swords. Now, the Nine of Swords is worry and anxiety and all those sorts of things. But it is also, for me, a card of needing to get things into perspective. And I think that it is interesting that they're showing up underneath this bony monster that we see here in the Devil card. You know, it's genuinely threatening. Look at it. This is a genuinely threatening card. But if we leave aside the, you know, the biology of how this thing would actually move around without any tendons or, you know, ligaments and things like that, muscles and whatnot, it's a pure spectre of horror. It's a pure spectre of one's own imagination. And the presence of the Nine of Swords underneath that is telling me that this that represents your fear, this big bony monster, the demons, you know, that you're fighting within your head, or maybe even just, you know, the monsters under your bed, the fucking skeletons in the closet, whatever, all the things that are kind of rattling around and making you feel unstable. They're all kind of pointing you towards where the next stage is, the opportunity for growth, where the Ace of Pentacles is sitting. You know, there's a quote, and I forget who it fucking was. It might have been Jung, but I'm not sure that it was. You know, all the tools you need to grow in the places that you don't want to look. Well, you've done a bit of that already, and there's the tower. Maybe you took a little bit of a risk and the tower came, but what you've got then from there is clarity of thought. Clarity of process appearing to you. Then we have, you know, understanding the ways in which we have held ourselves back and kept the wool over our own eyes, not that kind of thing, which then leads us to a positioning that makes it okay for us to take a leap into the dark. Recognizing the Ten of Pentacles for what it is, which is great achievement and it works and it's fantastic, but it's time to move on, because all of that is looking, as it sits on my table, it's looking to the left, it's looking into the past. That's there. Like, you've done it, it's great. Where are you going now? And we've got fears arising. Real or imagined, but I think for the most part, actually, Scorpio, kind of imagined, as to how this Ace of Pentacles is going to take effect. Because, you know, the Ace of Pentacles can often be like a new house, it can be a new job, it can be a promotion, it could be you know, the beginnings of an action that starts to get you some money coming in, right? A revenue stream of some sort. But it is potential, right? It's the potential to make more money, to improve your material circumstances. But it's accompanied here with the Nine of Swords. So it's like the potential's there and it's great, but already your subconscious is trying to stop you from moving outside of your comfort zone, because when you do that, it doesn't know what's happening next and it doesn't like that. You know, you've got this card here of control and commitment and consistency. Both of these cards speak to me about that. But then you've got the unpredictable Fool coming in. And it's like where everything's kind of shifting and moving, there could be a way of looking at it. It would be the easy way of looking at it, would be that everything is unstable. Shit, I don't like this. You fixed water, right? So there's a bit of movement there with the water, but mostly it's fixed. So I kind of think a Scorpio is sitting at the bottom of a dark pool somewhere, right? Where there's minimal kind of disturbance in your water, you know, in your energetic vibration. But there's movement here. You know, maybe there's a shit ton of water coming and maybe it's going to kind of wash you out of your hole and you're going to get washed away for a little bit until the water dies down, and then you're going to find somewhere that always is better than where you are. It's an opportunity to make peace with some long-standing issues because you've already done the groundwork in getting your mind straight about things. I feel like you should be able to recognize at this point any anxiety around this Ace of Pentacles or what it might represent to you as being exactly what I've spoken about, which is just your perspective. We'll finish off that thought, right? So it could be that everything's being, you know, wobbled around. That's insecure. I don't like that, all that sort of thing. Or, like I said right at the beginning, chaos is a ladder. Things are moving. Things are shifting. Potential energy is being shaken free from where it has been stuck. And there's a possibility for you to either start constructing a ladder or to roll with this and see where it goes, because the energy is supporting it. And the only thing that can stop you, the only thing that can step into your way is you and your mind. Now, if everything in your head is just perception, how could you shift that? How could you change it to make it much more in alignment with where you want to go in the future, right? We've got the potential of the Ace of Pentacles there, but what is the next Ten of Pentacles for you? What is that going to look like and how are you going to bring it about? More importantly, from a spiritual perspective, certainly in the immediate, you know, here and now, is how are you bringing peace to a subconscious that is wanting you to always see the swords? We've got the Five of Wands there. And there's only one sword here on the Knight of Swords, which is your last card here. This is Gemini energy. There's only one sword. And there's only one sword in the Queen of Swords as well. You know, it feels like there could be things like really washing up for you internally this month. But recognizing them for what they are is the important part of the process. From then, it's like having a key and being able to stick it in a door and open up possibilities and opportunities here. But you have to make sure that you are not standing in your own way when you do it. Because ultimately, you know, as terrifying as this skeletal thing is, it looks to me like you've gone into its lair. Now, maybe it's just one big kick. Oh no, it's probably because I'm a kickboxer, right? I was thinking about that. Right? One good teep straight to the sternum, that thing would just shatter. It'd be great. From a psychological and spiritual point of view, you know, as these things come up for you, here's an opportunity for you to teep them straight in the chest and then leave and go and do something better. Do something that is far more like you. There's something quite... And what did I say at the beginning? It felt to me like you had been guided to the place that you were at, and there's no reason to believe that you won't be guided further still. And yes, you're going to have to navigate some things that are difficult, but ultimately they exist only in your own head. And you create your own reality. So if you can, objectively, see these things for what they are, August is a month where you can start bringing some peace to the process. And all of the movement can start happening forwards. Not falling out of trees, not having to go up, not go, but literally forwards, where you want to go. Because you've got everything that you need. And I think if you're not aware that you don't have everything that you need, then that's something to meditate on. That's something to go back to the drawing board about. Because you've got a really powerful toolbox, Scorpio. And I think that the swords have always played a little bit too much of a role. Your toolbox has been a little too full of swords for a very long time. And you've built things despite that. But wouldn't it be nice to remove all of the obstacles altogether and get some more tools in there? Get some pentacles, get some cups, get some wands, get things moving. Things have been a bit stale and they're getting freshened up. And you're being asked to give yourself to the process, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm going to leave it there because I've been prattling on for ages, right? If this has resonated with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there is a link that you can access in the description box that will take you to Vimeo if you want to purchase a one-off extended. If you would like to be able to see all of the other extended readings for no extra cost, then I would suggest you bob over to Patreon and meet all the cool people over there. But even if you don't want to do either of those things, what I don't want you to do at any point this month is start to feel suffocated, because it's going to be intense, but it's almost like that's the opposite of what you're supposed to see in this situation. So if you're not seeing the opportunities, if you're not seeing the space around you, go back, look at what the obstacle is at this point, and if it involves meeting the bony thing that's kind of emerging out of the depths, just keep it. Let's knock it over, right? It forms no part of where you go moving forwards unless you plan on standing still. That's the long and short of it. And I don't think that any of you are, because there's too much higher thought, higher feeling, higher stuff going on at the moment. You know that the time is ripe for change. And you also know that you can choose to ignore that. It's entirely down to you. So anyway, yes, I shall go. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.